Okay, so guys, we ran through Skies of Axia.
Did we though? I mean,
Yet
yeah, we ran. We ran.
literally ran, especially because you two were the speedrunners,
Speed run.
particularly
Yeah.
for our first session. Um, which
Yeah.
yeah, first I just gotta say, like, one, thanks for playing through it with me. I know I've been badgering you guys about the Emberwind system for a little while, and then even like going on the module adventure with me. So let's just kind of talk what are first impressions with running the Emberwind module, and then let's go. Then we can get a little bit more into the nitty gritty.
I mean, I like the system. It's nice, fairly simple,
Mm-hmm.
straightforward. Um, I mean, like it's like we've discussed this before. It's a very tactics based game, which if you're coming from something like D&D, it's something you have to adjust to. I, for one, enjoy tactics games, and so this was just pretty cool. And kind of running through the module, it's like, okay, so we get options, and then like, okay, so I guess you just pick your own adventure. But then it's like, well, there's weighted options, and there's like, hey, you got your time. Basically, you have a few seconds to decide, and that's pretty cool because it puts like this weight on you. It's like, okay, we have to decide. We have to make sure we're picking something that's beneficial. Like basically the less of all evils.
Mm-hmm. I will say one thing that I did think was interesting that I found out recently is that apparently a lot of the game is going to be kind of retrofitted so it actually fits with fifth edition. Just that way, I feel like you would
Oh,
have a little
okay.
bit more of like player appeal. But
Yeah.
Eric, what did you think of the game? Especially because the two of you in particular ruined every single encounter that I read through. I just want to say, actually, could I get you guys to describe just what did your characters do through the campaign? Wow, how was your character built?
Nope. Anything you wanted to know?
Yeah, that's true.
That
So
that enemy NPC is to put no, he's not. He's going to stay right there and maybe fall on his face. We haven't decided that far yet.
yeah, for quick reference, for anybody that is watching this that hasn't watched our Skies of Axia campaign, which I'd highly recommend that you do. These two, Eric, wave really quick. Eric was playing our invoker who really focuses on kind of crowd controlling and debuffing enemies, and Diego was playing our spiritualist, which is how would you even describe the spiritualist? It's like stacking effects and debuffs more than anything, right?
It's a mix of crowd control damage and just it's a lot of like resource management
Right.
and
It's not
just
like
managing the field. It's
like both of you though, like you weren't there for like
yeah,
nuking enemies. You were the ones that it's like death by a thousand cuts because the two of you
yeah,
stacked, let's see, it was poison, hexes, crowd control, stopping abilities, and then
yeah,
Eric was also kind of an off healer. If anybody ever managed to get low, which Diego you did all the time.
yeah.
That was his class. That's what he
It was
did.
all self-inflicted.
I think you
Like
hit
I
him
think
once, and
I
he
think
spent
so.
half the game
yeah,
below like a quarter of his health.
Yeah.
Is literally,
yeah.
I'm gonna spend half my health. Okay, I'll give it back to you next turn. I'm gonna spend half my health. Here you go, and that's just how it went.
Yeah. Okay. So Eric, let's get your first impressions then, because I know Diego's already mentioned his. What did you think of trying out Emberwind? Because I think you were the first person actually told that I was interested in the system as a whole.
Yeah, you hit me up with the system, and I looked into it a bit, and I thought it looked really cool. Um, I thought it was interesting. I love the art that Derek and his team came up with. Uh, if they want to check out your interview with Derek, he heavily goes into how one of his big art inspirations was the old Guild Wars one. And as soon as I saw their art and everything they had posted, I was like, yes, I see it. So like the first thing I got to was like the art. Like I didn't know everything about the system, but I thought their art was phenomenal. and I love art, so that drew me to it to start looking into it deeper, and then your interest in it as well. But coming into it and building out, I built out I think 3 characters. Ended up sticking with my invoker, but the character building and then looking how everything's set up, and you looking at the 2 different systems that they have just in the book, not including the Deck of Fate system, which I think is a really awesome system too. It pulled me in, and then it's still a D20 system, so it's not far off from the stuff that I came into tabletop with D&D 5e. And I'm just like, I just need to roll lower. Okay, that's an easy change. I'll just hope that I get nat ones. I thought it was a good turn. I didn't think it was too complicated. And then, just like Diego said, it's very tactics based. Since we get to pick our initiative, who goes where, it put in a lot of the idea of, okay, if somebody really got hurt, we can put the healer up front on the next initiative. And I loved that, oh, well, I got this ability that I'm going to hit them with first to debuff them, and then we're going to put me at the back so that they have almost a full 2 rounds to deal with this debuff. And the complexity of how can we move ourselves around an initiative to make your life terrible was one of my favorite parts, because like Diego said, it's very tactics based. Where do we want to go? What do we want to put on who? And how do we ruin that one person's day? Like it was great.
See, the thing though is that I will say that running this as a game master, or in this case, a storyteller, as the person that is called in Emberwind, was actually really easy. Just because of the AI system that's in place. All I had to do was roll a d6 and determine how that unit was going to move. And then you guys would just find ways to say, no, they don't.
I mean, it's not hard when he just says, I sacrifice half of my health and I cancel his action.
Right. And the thing that was also, like, part of that was just all 3 of you were playing very, very defensive styled characters. Now, I do have to say,
that's true.
I'm very interested to see how this would have worked if one of you was playing a warrior, if one of you had gone ardent instead, like be a little bit more combat focused. I think that one thing that Emberwind does really, really well is the idea of optimizing a team composition, but still giving you enough flexibility at character creation to make a character that does seem uniquely your own. I know, like, when it came to you guys, you very obviously had Alex as your front line. I mean, his character's toughness score, which is a representative,
like a 12 or something.
It was 11 or 12, and the thing is, that's representative of his physical damage that he can absorb. And for those that don't know, the way that Emberwind works is that when an enemy, if they do hit a player, it's done either physical or more magic damage, and then based on your toughness or your I believe it was resistance, right? Yeah. You get to subtract that amount, so it does encourage you with different kinds of builds. So with our player that's unfortunately not able to make this interview, he built out a very tanky guy that focused on heavy armor and having a very high physical resistance. But if he got hit by magic damage, we saw that he almost got knocked out multiple times. Whereas the 2 of you, I believe, you both went like very light armor, correct? Because your whole thing was, I'm going to keep my distance, and I'm just going to keep messing with them.
Yeah, I think I had a toughness of like 4 and a resistance was 8.
Yeah.
So I was knocking off a nice chunk of any magic damage.
Which, granted, there was very little for what we saw in the campaign.
There was, but I didn't know that going into it. I was like, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. And just thinking on how you guys know how this system works now, is there anything that you think that you would have changed when it came to building your characters and being ready to play through this again?
Not really, because I think like after the initial like little battle scenario that we did just to test out how, kind of get a feel for the game, I knew exactly what, like, how I wanted this character to kind of go. And like
all the
seeing,
was.
all the was. Yeah, no, it kind of clicked. Like once I saw like how the spiritualist can go, like the routes it can take, like I like this particular route. I like the way the poison stacking, and so I kind of just went off of that. And it's like, well, like it also lets me heal if I amplify, so let's do that. Well, why am I healing? What's gonna be my I can sack HP, and it kind of clicked. And like for those of you who have played Hearthstone, I saw a bit of warlock in the spiritualist. So I kind of just took that route,
where health just becomes a resource.
Exactly, where just use my health, use it as a resource. Fortunately, I did have a front line, and so I was able to just kind of stand back, throw out spells, stop things that needed to be stopped, and just lay out damage consecutively.
Right. Well, here's a question I have for you. So one thing that I think is really good about the system is that it encourages flexibility. I don't know how often you guys would take advantage of it, but after every combat encounter, you can change out one of your class actions. You get all of your health back after a combat encounter, and you just have the ability to make swaps kind of when you want. We already touched on this with the initiative order as well. How often did you guys take advantage of that? And did you feel that that is something that is beneficial for this kind of system?
I kind of didn't know about that.
I thought it was something. I realized that you guys were using a lot of very similar skills. And I was like, okay, like are they just not changing on purpose? Are they very like happy with how their builds are going?
It flew over my head.
Okay,
it must have flown because I'm sure you mentioned it at some point, but I think I was just kind of focused like I like this, and it just one of those instances where it just flew over my head.
Okay, how about you, Eric?
I just had a very specific way that I had Owry built. When we went up to tier 2, I took Shifting Sands so that I could drop my I forget what they're called, but my little AoEs that I could put on the ground, my field effects.
Right. For both healing and
normally, yes. Normally, it tells you that it has to be an unoccupied space when you put it down, but Shifting Sands lets you put it down on a person. Like you can put it down on an occupied spot. So all of my main healing spell, normally I'm supposed to put it down. They're supposed to walk into it on their turn. Or, if an enemy walks into it before they can get to it, it heals them instead. It's the next target. Mm-hmm. So Shifting Sands just allowed me to drop my heals on people, as well as my Well of Power that just made people do more damage.
Yeah.
So I wanted to keep that. And then to be able to focus on my support, I only had one damaging ability, one class action, and that was my Hex that I'm just able to sustain. So then to make that better, I took the Woebringer that I could every time for every unique condition or hex on them, it increased my die size. So instead of doing D6s of damage, I was doing D8s. And then you threw on Diego's Poison, and I was rolling D10s. We threw anything else on there, I was rolling up, and that was my damage.
Yeah.
It was that one spell while I focused on keeping everybody else up. And if I would have changed anything out, it would have broke away from the way I was wanting to play the character and the way I wanted to focus on, this is how they want to do this.
Okay, so you think that specific builds would probably be something that, like, if you want to be kind of like a power gamer, this might be a better system for you then.
Absolutely. And then, if you are messing with something and trying to figure something out and it's not working the way you want, after that combat, you can swap something out. Like, I think that's incredible. You don't see that in any other tabletop that I've played.
Right.
So, having that accessibility on the fly, I think, is an incredible incentive to try out different things if you're wanting to experiment with your different class abilities and stuff. I definitely see it being really good once you hit like tier 3 and 4, where you got, almost 40 abilities to pick through to try to mix and match.
Right. Okay, so this next question is going to be two parts. So let's talk favorite part of the Skies of Axia campaign, and then let's talk least favorite part.
I think my favorite part was kind of that last session as a whole. I enjoyed it just because it's like, all right, we're going, flying through the air, doing a battle, we crash into.
We got swallowed by a freaking dragon.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Giant skyworm, yeah.
I shot a cannon inside of it, and like it was one of those where it was just like, all right, yeah, we're this is gonna get close. I enjoyed that one. I think that session was like my favorite.
Yeah, I will say I think that the third act was definitely because it was more action focused. It was like you guys had to be on a lot more. I think that personally, I love the way that the Skies of Axia campaign is written, and I do think that the team at Not On The Board does a good job with writing their campaign modules, at least from what I've been able to see so far. But that third act, you have no idea how bad I wanted to get you guys there. Like, when I was reading through, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be cool.
Yeah, we said no.
Okay, so
as
Eric,
far as oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, Eric, what was your favorite part?
I like role play. Combat is fantastic, and Emberwind does a really good job with it. But the times that, like, especially at the beginning of the third session, when you gave us that nice little spot where we basically just contemplated what happens if we die, what happens when we die. That role play section right there was fantastic. We got everybody in. I loved it. It was probably up there. It's hard for me to pick a favorite because there was some really good parts.
Yeah.
But
the fact that you guys did that completely unprompted, I'm just like, look, before we started the session, I'm like, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of space. If you want to role play, like, this is going to be like the downtime in the campaign to do so. And the fact that you guys did that by yourselves was amazing to witness.
It was really fun. Okay. I thoroughly enjoyed that part.
Yeah, that was really cool. Okay, so we've talked about the highs. What are ways that you think that the campaign could possibly improve, or like what was some of like your not so favorite parts of it then?
Eric, if you want to lead this one, because I'm kind of still thinking about this.
There were a couple of things which me and you have already talked about, and I haven't looked at the campaign book, so it's hard for me to be like, was it the campaign or was it forgetfulness on Andrew's part? There were a few times.
Our first session in particular, there was definitely stuff that I missed.
You mean where she gave us money and we're like, what are we supposed to do with this?
Yes, I did forget that there was a market that you guys were supposed to be able to visit. And then you guys literally didn't spend a single coin.
No, we didn't.
The entire time.
Even when we got to the red market.
Oh,
we were just like, I was just like, does anybody need anything? Want anything?
Right.
Nobody wants to go look at anything.
So part of that is on me. And there was also stuff that would like flesh stuff out. So we like,
right.
And granted, you two in the first session were just like, we're gonna speed run this. The fact you both screamed speed run at the top of your lungs.
What are you talking about?
I'm just like, okay, they're not going to talk to anybody. Okay, got it. Fine, cool. It's like the
well, to
of
be
like
fair, we both decided the first lady, like the guy's second in command. Any information that we could get from her, we could get from him. So, like, outside of her giving us money, we're just okay. Bye.
Logically, I'm going to say that it makes sense. Like, I understand where you're coming from. And I do have to say, as a storyteller, especially because with our group, I've been running our Veil campaign for a while, and that's completely homebrew. Going back to a module was definitely a different experience for me. And I both liked and didn't quite like the like choice A, B, or C system. I think that if you are new to the game or new to tabletop games, this would be a good way to get other new people involved. Because sometimes when you're playing like D&D, it can be so open-ended at times that you don't know what you're doing or where you're going.
Yeah.
So I think that this, if you want something that is simple and streamlined and very beginner friendly, I think that as a storyteller, it's a strength. However, you guys, I know, happen to be pretty good like role play players, and the opening segments don't really encourage that, at least from the way that I ran it. There were parts that I forgot,
Yeah.
so that's on me. um, and there was also times that like I just didn't really give you a chance to breathe. So part of this is from my abilities as a storyteller, and part of that is also shifting back to running a module after running homebrew for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like it definitely like did seem like it's like running through the whole campaign. It's we went through one thing and the next with like no time in between. It just said where a regular campaign would be like a TV show. This was a movie.
Yeah,
And it
I would
was
say
and a short movie at that too.
that is a very accurate assessment. I think that our grand total playtime was like 7-ish hours for this campaign.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that this definitely fulfills like a more fast paced like niche that D&D doesn't have, because like even the combat encounters went a lot faster. You guys got through the entire first act of this session or of this campaign in an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah. And I know because I recorded it.
Speed run.
Yeah. And I mean like so like with like length, like time played isn't necessarily a bad thing if it's short or bad. Just depending on how but like I felt like it just the parts that should have ran a little longer, which was like the outside of battle, those ran a little shorter. Combat ran pretty fast, which I enjoyed, because like sometimes you're playing other systems and you're sitting there for a good 5, 10, 20 minutes for it to come back to you, and so it's like, oh right here, and trying to pay attention, making sure where everything's at. It sometimes gets a little escape your attention kind of drifts off.
Yeah.
So I great combat system for that. Let's make it a little bit more streamlined. So yeah, I think that just the outside of combat it ran a little faster than I had hope, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I think that if I would have given you guys a little bit more time to breathe and like actually like explore some things, that probably would have helped with that. And personally, I do want to try running something that is like either a custom campaign or a homebrew campaign with this system, just to see how that would affect our overall experience, because you guys are more experienced role players. That's I mean, our group's been playing together. I've been with you guys now for about 3 years. Eric, you've been with us for what, like almost 2 now?
About a year and a half, roughly.
Yeah.
Also, sorry to interrupt, but like going back to the whole felt rush, I think it's not only that, but I think for me, and Eric, I don't know what you think, but like I think having the time clock, like the campaign clock, hearing that like increase your campaign clock by 4, and like having that mindset we're speed running this, is like, all right, we kind of have to go, make sure that clock doesn't go up. So I think that's also why it felt rushed, because at first we were rushing, and then the campaign clock, being aware of that, had that got into that mentality where you kind of have to run through this.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like I understand, especially with this campaign, and I don't know about the other adventure that they have, but with it being, with us knowing that it's on a time clock, and then looking at, if we don't go fast enough, we could lose Galespar. Like it could just drop off of, the floating continent.
Yeah.
It puts forth the idea for like emergency, like it needs to be fast. So that probably has a little bit to do with it as well, with why everything seemed rushed. Because again, you then kind of have to justify if we spend an hour role playing, and this whole lower slum city is getting ready to just drop off the face of the planet. Do we really have that time? So if it would have been thrown like maybe on the lift ride, like we did with the airship, because we were already on the airship in transit, I feel like that might have been a good place to expand and be like, hey, throw in another one of those sections where if your players want to take a little bit of role play right here, let them go ahead and do it. I think probably just in the book itself, again, I haven't read it, so I don't know what else in it, but having little notations like that, especially, because the system does seem simpler and a lot more like newbie introduction friendly, having that little like, hey, if you have some players that want to talk, give them some time to talk right here.
Right. And part of that is that, especially with that first chapter, because I know that we just kind of rushed through, like, as it was initially written, there is a full appendix in the back that I had missed entirely in terms of my prep. And I think that probably would have helped flesh some stuff out. And that probably would have made things feel a little more alive. So again, it's not so much on the book as it is on me. And I wasn't, I thought I was more prepared than I was.
Yeah.
But
it's more us, not just you. It's us as a group. It just seems. Yeah. I'm not letting you take the blame for everything because, like I said,
we're the ones.
Well, the fact that you guys were literally just like speed run.
Yeah. So, but I mean, overall, I had fun with it though.
Yeah.
Like, there was little nuances, but that's just probably our group. Things we missed. Overall, it was still fun.
So then this is going to lead into the last major question that I have for you guys is, would you want to spend more time with this system? Or if you don't, what would you think it would take for you to revisit it?
Oh, I definitely would spend more time with the system. I mean, like I said before, I am a fan of tactics games, and like I always enjoyed things like, Advanced Wars, Final Fantasy Tactics, stuff like that. And so, I mean, like being able to kind of check out more of the classes.
XCOM is at 99%.
Yeah. So, I mean, like just being able to check out more of the classes. But yeah, checking out more of the classes because something that also we discussed is like, man, what if I could, create a party of 4 and, just to find out the synergies between each class and their abilities is it's something that I would definitely want to dig into. Plus, from what you told us that they're going to implement subclasses and other things. And I'm just like, I'm curious.
I already have 2 extra characters rolled up. Like, I'm ready to go.
Right?
Like, I have a rogue and an ardent that are just waiting to start throwing fire and shoot arrows. Like,
and that's the thing is, like, you mentioned how we all played sort of defensive style classes. What if we all go offensive? What if we do no magic?
I would be very interested to see how you guys would pull it off. So maybe that's something that we can look into as a group, moving forward. Because personally, I do want to spend more time with the system. I feel like we just got a taste with the Skies of Axia, and I do think that if there are people that are interested in checking out Emberwind, I think the Skies of Axia is a really good way to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think that it is short enough that you can kind of get a sense of how the system works. In fact, this would be one that if you wanted to just do like 1 long session or 2 medium length sessions, you could finish it over the course of a weekend if you wanted to.
Yeah.
There are options that are in the book for if you have 1 player. You could play through this solo without a GM if you felt like it. You could run this as a solo game. But there are variant rules for if you only have 2 players, if you have 3 players, if you have 4 players. There are even rules for if you have up to like 6. And of course, then, that's where it starts getting the veteran enemies, which I didn't use any of, which they have learning AI, which is a whole other bag of tricks that I don't think I was quite ready for. But I just think that this system has a lot of potential. I like the fact that it does have this
definitely.
nice little blend of some science fiction and some fantasy. Like there's definitely,
Yeah.
you have airships, which you don't always have in D&D. I mean, I've personally never played in a D&D campaign with one. I know that they are pretty prevalent because that's a fun fantasy twist that you can throw on some tech. But yeah,
especially with the artificer and everything else that's been added in, like it's definitely possible now that, you know, stuff like the artificer is, you know, no longer homebrew, no longer unearthed arcana. It's an actual class
right.
in 5e. And I know it's been around since I know that there was one in second.
Yeah.
Right.
So like it's been there.
I will say, as a storyteller, the only thing that I really have a concern with the Emberwind system is I feel that this is good for multiple like short length campaigns. So you start slowly building your characters up that way. I think that you could run something a little more long form, but you're going to have to find ways to keep it interesting because currently there are only 4 tiers of play. I know that the subclasses are going to be coming out, which will start adding more depth to your characters. And now there are the cantrip cards, which are going to make it so that way you have more role play incentives because those are only supposed to be used in custom games. Those are not going to be they're not supposed to be compatible with the pre-written modules. And from my understanding, they are currently working on like a storyteller's guide, which would almost be kind of like the DMG or the Dungeon Master guide that we have for D&D. So I'm personally very excited for that to come out. But
one thing that I would love to visit, if we go back and look into the system again, even if we only do it for a couple of sessions, using the Deck of Fates.
Okay.
I think the Deck of Fates is a really cool idea, and I think it incentivizes roleplay, which with our group.
Let's take just a quick second to explain what he's referring to when it comes to the Deck of Fates system. So something that I personally like about Neverwin is the fact that there are so many variant rules that literally every single player can pick which rule system that they want to play with. I know that when I presented this to you guys, I asked if we could just keep it to the simple dice rolling system because that's what we're all familiar with. And let's be honest, we all like our clicky clacks. But
Shiny math rocks.
The Deck of Fate system is something that is more unique to Emberwind, and it's something that you can do with just a deck of cards. And when it comes to making your skill check, you can get bonuses and negatives depending on how you're role playing in the interaction. You basically make a little deck in front of you, you shuffle it, and then you draw a card. Like a certain color means success, a certain color means failure. And especially after speaking with Derek, I'm also very interested to see how that system would work because you guys do really good role play moments. If anybody needs an example of that, go check out the finale episode. Like the first, not the finale. It would be our chapter.
Because you split it into two. The third video.
It's just because it was so long.
Yeah,
but
it was long.
To tell you what,
that was a long night.
We will have a link to it. But go check out the first 10, 15 minutes of the episode and just listen to how these guys role play. So that could be something that we can definitely check out moving forward. But let's go ahead and get this closed out because I've already held you guys longer than I had anticipated. Just do you have any closing thoughts on Emberwind? And if there are people that would be checking out the system, what should they know going into it?
I mean, it's a fun system, really pretty simple to pick up real quick. I mean, character creation is fairly simple. Especially and you can make it a little bit more complex if you want to. It's a fun game, tactics heavy into combat, but still loads of fun.
Okay, and Eric?
I definitely feel like it is very beginner friendly. Having the multiple different systems from the Deck of Fates to the dice rolling system to a standard dice rolling array for your abilities. versus the aspect system for the dice rolling. I feel like it's got a little bit of something for everybody. And then, like you said, there's so much stuff in the storyteller's guide for the story that you can give those people that may want a little bit of something else, a little bit of more of that little thing that they may feel like they're missing out on. I definitely suggest it for people that want to get into tabletop, especially if it's, you got somebody that's got a group of friends, but nobody really wants to take up that DM position and be that storyteller, because they can still play. They may know things that are going to happen if they want to read ahead in the book so that they can be more prepared. But because the AI is so intuitive and built to be ran without a DM, I think it's a great system for anyone that may have that initial fear of sliding right into that DMC.
Yep. And I will say, because I was the storyteller for this, it's a very, very easy game to run, especially if you pick up one of the pre-written modules, because you have, a choice A, B, or C when it comes to major story decisions. And when it comes to running combat, everything is just done based on rolling a six-sided dice. And let's be honest, if you played Yahtzee, you already have those.
Yeah.
And I will say that flexibility is key. There are rules that are in effect that can change on a regular basis. They can vary by player. You can pick and choose however you want to play this game. If you're building a character, there's a ton of options, a lot of flexibility. I mean, you're not even beholden to the class abilities that you start on any given session with. So I do think that this game has a lot of potential. I think that it's great for new players, and there's enough depth to it that you could have more experienced players coming back for more. So personally, I would recommend this game to people. I'm not sure if you guys would be doing the same, but those are my 2 cents on it. Before we go ahead and close out, is there anything that you guys would like to plug, where if people want to try talking with you guys or checking out stuff that you're working on, where would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
I mean, check me out at Twitch, Ogie_777 on Twitch. And you might find me somewhere else. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I'll make sure that I have that in the description. And then, Eric, do you have anything that you'd like to plug right now?
Outside of life just keeping me down 9 times out of 10, you can find me on YouTube at Lunar Arcana. If it doesn't get cut, it's at the corner of my little screen thingy, because it's spelled really funky like. But I want to get more stuff put up, but it's really hard when I'm working 12 plus hours a day. So
Yeah,
if you want to follow me, look me up. I got stuff coming. I just got to get to it.
right. All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me on this, guys. But for everybody watching,
Anytime.
that we will make sure that you guys see more of us in the future. So until
Next time, Shadowrun.
All right. We will see you guys in the next video.